Hello, boys and girls. Very good morning and Jai Hind. So, we had in the last lecture we covered the primary discussion on this particular section 9 subsection 3, right? Wherein we discussed about the reverse charge. Although we did not really discuss in depth, we had to uh, now continue on this particular section. Now, friends, before we go on to the reverse charge core discussion, I just gave you a heads up that why these provisions of reverse charge are there. Now, as discussed in the previous lecture, we only briefly touched upon that reverse charge means that is a mechanism of tax collection only. However, the tax lawmakers are of the view that if there are transactions which are kept under the reverse charge mechanism, it is an administrative convenience and it is envisaging a large number of taxpayers who otherwise would not get covered because of the reasons of limitations of the law. So, for instance, if I want to say that, okay, why this reverse charge mechanism will have to be used. So, reverse charge mechanism will have to be used because, okay, possibly because that in otherwise these taxpayers would not have come in the taxable net. So, now let us take an example. Okay, let us take an example quickly to discuss this reverse charge scenario. So, now let's say that there are some 100 truck operators, rather truck drivers, who are standing in who are standing with the vehicles on turn by turn basis as a part of their organization, which is a simple association of person. Means simply just take a look around that you go walk down the street. You see that okay, there are some 100 truck drivers who are standing with their vehicles. जैसे जैसे लोग उनको अप्रोच करते हैं वन बाय वन रैंडमली काम के लिए, वो उनके लिए काम करते हैं. Now, these sectors are particularly the unorganized sectors. So there are one set of example we are taking, like one set of category of truck drivers we are taking this. Then there might be another scenario that there is a owner of 10 trucks fleet who operates as goods transport service provider, but again who is not really, I mean, somebody who is not having any organized sector of I mean organized set of business. उसके पास 10 गाड़ियां है. लोगों को पता है उसके पास 10 गाड़ियां. He tries to reach people through different channels, media, social media or any other mechanism to market his services. He throws across his services and मैं service provide करता हूँ. Now, in both these cases, if I take into consideration, what is the scenario that the recipient, now the supplier of services in the above cases, मतलब ये दोनों केसेस में जो number of supplier of services है, these are extremely high. The number of suppliers are very high, very much in number. And if I go from the fundamental scenarios of GST law for registration, then normally I know that okay, the registration provisions are applicable if my aggregate turnover exceeds rupees 20 lakhs. Now, in these cases, of course, that if I see from an individual point of view that every truck driver may not be really having his turnover more than 20 lakhs. So, अगर मैं normal circumstances के हिसाब से देखने जाऊंगा इसमें, तो truck drivers के केस में तो 20 lakhs के ऊपर नहीं जाने वाले. I'm not saying that the transport operators don't have good revenues. They do have, like they do have revenues in crores also for those who are running on an extremely organized basis, organized manner. But अगर आप bulk number देखोगे तो इसका ज़्यादा है. तो there are certain category of services like this truck service providers. तो इनके recipients जो होते हैं उसमें कौन से recipients को टैप करना easy है. So if I say a company, a partnership firm, LLP, or a housing cooperative housing society. Now, if I see that these are the recipients, okay, these are the recipients. Now, when services flow from these people, when services are flowing from these people to this set of people, then there is a possibility that if I keep a track of these recipients, if I keep a track of these recipients, I know that they are less in number. So what does the lawmaker think in such scenarios, that अगर हम लोग ने ऐसा किया कि when on certain category of services you know that the numbers are very high, the numbers are extremely high, so rather than running behind a supplier of services, if I focus on the recipients, if I focus on the recipients, then for me it becomes easy to collect the GST or easy to collect the tax. And also the widening of scope happens because I get to collect the tax on services from those organized service providers of truck drivers as well as unorganized services of truck drivers, isn't it? ये specifically reason होता है जब हम लोग बोलते हैं कि okay, in a reverse charge mechanism these transactions would be liable for GST. So why reverse charge? So I was just trying to give you a background as to why there is a reverse charge. Now you take what are the other services under reverse charge mechanism. So now let's say that the business auxiliary services in case of the insurance service providers. So insurance service providers के case में क्या होता है? Suppose now there are say some I cannot even anticipate the number really. So let's say that there are 3 crore LIC agents, like agents of LIC, Life Insurance Corporation of India. As against that, there is only one LIC. There is only one LIC. So, for 3 crore agents, there is only one LIC out over here, right? For 3 crore agents, there is only one LIC over here. Now, 3 crore agents क्या काम करते हैं LIC के लिए? They'll get business for LIC. So, actually speaking, what happens is that these agents, they provide services to LIC, and in the return LIC pays them the commission. Correct? So for this service, when services are provided by LIC to the agents, I beg your pardon, the services are provided by the agent to the LIC of bringing in business, and LIC pays them commission. So technically, these agents are the service providers for LIC. But because the supplier of services are these agents who are huge in number, whose individual turnovers may not be really crossing the basic exemption, the basic limit for getting registered under GST, in such cases, the onus has been shifted on the recipient of services, namely LIC. That okay, for whatever services you receive from your agents, the LIC, the company is the one who is liable to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. So, friends, on a broader basis, try to understand that when we speak about the reverse charge mechanism, when we speak about this 9 subsection 3 in particular, what the intent of the government is that the government on the recommendation of the council or by the notification specify the category of supply of goods or services or both, the tax on which shall be paid on the reverse charge basis by the recipient of such goods or services, and all the provisions of such act shall apply to the recipient as if he is a person liable for paying the tax. So when in certain scenarios it is found necessary and it can be found relevant to do so, the provisions of 9 subsection 3 are going to be invoked, and those recipients of supplies will be considered to be the one who will be liable to pay the tax under the reverse charge mechanism. And therefore, last time I gave you an illustration that okay, in normal circumstances may the supplier of service will collect money of the taxes from the recipient of service and pay it to the government. Under the reverse charge mechanism, the supplier of service is not going to collect any tax and pay it to the government. It is the recipient instead who will determine the amount of tax and pay it directly to the government. So that is what happens in case of reverse charge mechanism. Now, friends, 9 subsection 3 or 5 subsection 3 of the IGST Act or the respective sections of the SGST Act or the UTGST Act, they particularly cover what category? That supplier of the government by notification specify the category of supplies, the tax on which shall be paid by the on the reverse charge by the supply recipient of such goods or services or both, and all the provisions shall apply. So this particular section will be read along with the specific notifications which are given in the CGST Act, I mean in the CGST notifications, IGST notification, SGST notification. Like in normal scenario in IGST also, if I want to give an illustration, then क्या होता है, तो importer of services in India. So let's say the importer of OID, I mean the importer of services in India, he will be liable to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. So for instance, let's say that I am a company, I am a firm in India. I have taken some cloud services from say, I have taken some cloud services from uh, say Oracle or Google. I have taken, beg your pardon, not Oracle. Oracle is a software provider more or less. I have taken cloud services from Google, let's suppose, and Google INC USA. Now, every month Google sends me an invoice on which I am supposed to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. Why? Can my government have a jurisdictional right extended to Google INC USA, who is a supplier of service in this case? The answer is no. So किसके ऊपर ओनस आ सकता है कि ओके रेसिपिएंट को बोलो आप ही रिवर्स चार्ज में टैक्स पे कर दो, रेसिपिएंट को बोलेंगे आप ही रिवर्स चार्ज में टैक्स पे कर दो, बात खत्म हो गई. So in such scenarios, in case of import of services, in such cases, import of services may, except for the OIDAR category, which we will discuss at the time of place of supply, the recipient will be liable to pay the GST under the reverse charge mechanism. Fine. So I hope this particular point is clear. Now, the next one that we are going to approach is the provision of section 9 subsection 4. Now, of course, this section stands amended, and this section had a lot of disturbances right from the time when it was introduced. I'll just give you a heads up what this section was originally when it was given. The central tax in respect of supply of taxable goods or services or both by a supplier who is not registered to a registered person shall be paid by the person on reverse charge basis as the recipient. Now, this is again reverse charge only, slightly different. 9 subsection 3 specifically talks about notified supplies on which the recipient would be liable to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. Usme it did not matter whether the supplier was registered, not registered, kya hai, kya nahi. Once that notified supply was received by the notified category of recipient, it was liable for reverse charge. When 9 subsection 4 was as originally introduced, it said that all taxable supply of goods or services made by any unregistered person to a registered recipient, the registered recipient would be liable to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. भाई इसमें गड़बड़ क्या हो रहा था कि आप एक नॉर्मल ऑफिस का सिनेरियो अज्यूम करो, आप say maybe any normal office you take into consideration. So let's say that there is a tea vendor who is coming to you कि sir चाय ले लो करके. He is a supplier of taxable goods or taxable services. Somebody is coming to you with stationery, somebody is coming to you with very small goods, every random thing that you buy. And if the recipient, as you as a recipient are registered, then you are liable to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. Now, this was a big challenge, you see, that because you cannot say that, okay, every person who is supplying goods or services which are taxable in nature, and if that supplier is unregistered, and if the recipient is registered, recipient will go on paying the tax. This was creating a big hassle when this section originally was there. And mind you, this section was very much existing from 1st July 2017 to 13th of October 2017. Thereafter, this section provisions got suspended from operation. So this initially, so yeah, there was one more variation. Yeah, I should not miss out. Initially, they said that okay, everything that you purchase as taxable goods or service from any unregistered supplier, recipient is supposed to pay the tax under RCM basis. Then there came a relaxation that okay, if the aggregate payment made to that person in a day does not in unregistered suppliers in a day does not exceed 5,000, you may not pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. Finally, 13th October 2017 onwards, this section went into suspension. Thereafter, directly while making an amendment as per the CGST Amendment Act, this new subsection 9, subsection 4 was introduced, and the older section, the section which was there at the time of introduction of GST law, that was scrapped. Now, what does the amended section say, which we'll focus now on? The government may, on the recommendation of the council by notification, specify class of registered persons who shall, in respect of supply of specified category of goods or services or both, received from an unregistered supplier, pay the tax on reverse charge basis as the recipient of supply of goods or services or both, and all the provisions shall apply to such person, a recipient, as if he is the person liable to pay the GST. Now, what did they do? The government may specify by notification class of registered persons, means they earlier it was all the registered person. Now say that okay, the notification will decide what type of registered recipients, if they are receiving any taxable supply of goods or services from a unregistered supplier, only in a specific scenario they will be liable to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. So if I have to just give you a short, heads up as regards to how this provisions really changed from the earlier times. मतलब जो 9 subsection 3 at the I mean 9 subsection 4 at the time of its introduction आया था, उसमें क्या था? उसमें क्या था? Any, it was like any unregistered supplier supplying taxable goods or services to to any registered person. अब after the amendment, like after the post amendment, how it is notified sorry, notified supplies of goods or services which are supplied by unregistered suppliers to notified recipients, to notified recipients. So this is the, to notified, I should say, registered recipients, to notified registered recipient. This is the actual change which has happened post the amendment. This is the change which has happened post the amendment, right? So I hope this is clear to all of you. Okay. Now, the last section from the charging section, this entire chapter took us a lot of time in between, yeah, because we had a lot of challenges in the last 2 3 weeks. It's been a bit challenging scenario. My more like two or three of my office staff, they have been unfortunately unwell, hospitalized, and a lot was coming on me in person, to be very specific. All the more I tried to take out time a couple of times, however it was getting very challenging, and therefore I could not really upload the videos in this gap of 7 8 days. So at the outset I need to extend my heartfelt regrets and apologies for that. But yeah, nonetheless I'm trying to catch up the bus. I have that in mind, that how much you need to really I need to cover for you guys, and only there will be one scheduled break that will be between the 1st to 9th of September. So by like today, tomorrow, day after, I'll try to cover as many lectures as possible, so that we are strongly covering a lot of ground before the before 31st of October, like as I planned, beg your pardon, before the 30th of September, I plan to wrap up with the lectures latest by maybe 5th or 6th of October, so that the syllabus is done before the November attempt students are really waiting for it. Now, the last section, 9 subsection 5. The government may, on the recommendation of the council by notification, specify categories of services, the tax on intra-state supplies of which shall be paid by the electronic commerce operator if such services are supplied through it. And all the provisions of this act shall apply to such electronic commerce operator as if he is a person liable to pay the tax in relation to supply of such services. Provided that where the electronic commerce operator does not have a physical presence in the taxable territory, any person representing such e-com operator shall be liable to pay the tax in the taxable territory. Okay, now let us not really focus on the administrative part of it. मतलब ये यहाँ से यहाँ पे सिर्फ कौन टैक्स भरने के लिए जिम्मेदार है उस बारे में सेक्शन है. We'll focus on this part. Okay. The government may, on the recommendation of the council, specify by notification category of the services or the tax of the intrastate supply on which shall be paid by the electronic commerce operator. Now let me tell you, something very specifically in this regard. I'll give you an example which you may have encountered on a very recurrent basis. So now let's say that Mr. Pratik books a Ola cab Ola cab for his travel from, let's say, Thane to Mumbai airport. Ola cab charges are rupees 1000. This is including all taxes. Now, when you take an example of a e-commerce operator, so you know that okay, Ola is an aggregator, right? Ola is an aggregator. Now, I'll give you a practical example in this case. What really happens? Okay, see, what happens is that there is one company called as Ola who are running an app. Okay, some ANI Technologies Private Limited is what is the name what they are called as. ANI Technologies Private Limited, that is Ola. Ola ने क्या किया that there's one person who is a driver. Okay, there is one person who is a driver. This driver is registered on their platform, and there is one passenger, this Mr. Pratik. Okay, this Mr. Pratik is the passenger. So Ola app helps these two people connect with each other. Ola app helps these two people connect with each other. So it's Ola is typically a e-commerce operator. Ola is typically a e-commerce operator. Now in this case, what really happens? In this case, what really happens? That as per 9 subsection 5, when Pratik will complete his ride, he is going to receive two invoices. And ये आप observe करो किसी but don't observe it in any of your Ola rickshaw travels, okay? Because Ola rickshaw में कोई GST नहीं लगेगा. There is an exemption applicable. If you travel, you will receive two invoices. Now, one invoice will be issued. Out of the two invoices, one invoice will be issued. The first invoice will be issued to you by ANI Technologies. ANI Technologies to customer. ये आपका पहला invoice आता है. ANI Technologies to the customer. ये आपका पहला invoice आता है. First invoice is issued by ANI Technology in capacity of e-com operator and issued on behalf of the driver. Issued on behalf of the driver. So इसमें मान लो कि ये ऊपर जितना अमाउंट दिया है उसमें से रुपीज से 5 लेट्स से रुपीज 490 प्लस उसके ऊपर का कुछ टैक्सेस है 60 रुपए, ऐसा मिला के आपको टोटल ये रुपीज 550 का एक इनवॉइस आ गया. ना इसमें का ये जो 60 रुपीज है, दिस इज द जीएसटी पोर्शन, दिस इज द जीएसटी पोर्शन विच on behalf of the driver this ANI Technologies is paying to the government because 9 subsection 5 में ऐसा बोला है. The second invoice, and also mind you well that this invoice will be specifically mentioned that this invoice is under section issued under section 9 subsection 5 of the CGST Act, ऐसा करके लिख के देंगे वो 9 subsection 5 of the CGST Act, etc, etc. The second invoice will be issued by ANI Technologies to the customer. Say, let's say this is of rupees 400 plus 50, 450. सो टेक्निकली आपका 550 प्लस 450 आपका 1,000 रुपए का तो इशू सॉर्ट आउट है, मतलब 1,000 रुपए कैसा आपका फेयर आता है तो ऐसा आ गया. नाउ दिस ANI टेक्नोलॉजीज टू कस्टमर, ये जो इनवॉइस आया है दिस इज टुवर्ड्स द सप्लाई ऑफ बिजनेस ऑक्सिलरी सर्विसेज या फिर यू कैन से बिजनेस सपोर्ट सर्विसेज. इसके ऊपर स्ट्रेट 18% जीएसटी लगा के वो आपको देते हैं. This is because these are the category. This is the category of services. This is for those charges which the Ola does not pay to the driver. It retains it with itself. अब वो उनका पे आउट का एडजस्टमेंट कभी होता है, क्या होता है, फिलहाल हम लोग उसमें नहीं जा रहे. ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड वन पॉइंट दैट व्हेन the e-commerce operator is asked to pay, it is actually if you see जब एक ड्राइवर कस्टमर को, पैसेंजर को सर्विस देता है, इट इज द ड्राइवर हु इज द सर्विस प्रोवाइडर एंड द कस्टमर इज द सर्विस रेसिपिएंट. But because this transaction happens from through an e-commerce operator, here the responsibility to pay the tax and collect and pay the tax is on the e-commerce operator, therefore he pays it through him. तो कभी भी जब आपका ओला राइड होगा तभी आपको दो इनवॉइसेस आएंगे. वन इनवॉइस विल बी इशूड बाय द ई-कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर इन द कैपेसिटी ऑफ एन ई-कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर अंडर 9 subsection 5. Another set of invoice will be received towards their convenience charges or ease charges or any surcharge वगैरह वगैरह जो भी नाम से आने दो, for those support services they have provided, those charges will be directly billed to the customer. बट जब आप ऐप पे पे करते हो आप सिंपली 1,000 रुपए पे करते हो, बट उसका जो बैकग्राउंड है वो ये होता है. सो फ्रेंड्स, जो सेक्शन 9 सबसेक्शन 5 में दिया है दैट any cases where the e-commerce operators, so now what they have said that by the notification specify the category of services, the tax on the intrastate supply which shall be paid by the e-commerce operator if such services are supplied through it. So I gave you one example of Ola. You can also take into consideration any e-commerce operator that you are availing services on the B2C platform. This is how it works, even if it may in be B2B also, but वो e-commerce के थ्रू हो रहा है, वो notified service के बारे में, तो this is how it works. So friends, chapter of charging section, that is the scope of supply, हम लोग ने already कर लिया. composite and mix supply कर लिया. charging section आज हमारा यहाँ पे खत्म हो जाता है. Now the next that we are going to do will be the composition levy. Composition levy का lecture will be the next. So as I said that yes, we'll try to cover as many lectures as possible in the next 2 to 3 days. So do read these. इसके ऊपर के भी जो क्वेश्चन आंसर्स आएंगे वो हम लोग साथ में डिस्कस करेंगे. In the meanwhile, wherever you find it necessary, please do fire up the questions to me whenever it is you feel that okay you need to discuss something. We can have one live session on Zoom also, but उसके लिए एक 8-10 lectures हो जाने दो, then we'll have some doubts accumulated and we can have a live session. Alright, so thank you so much friends. Have a good day ahead. Take care. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra. Bye bye.